Anyway, thank you all for joining us. Welcome to our press conference on recent trade-related job loss in Michigan. My name is Denise Bailey. I'm the lead organizer at the Trade Justice Education Fund, and I'll be moderating today. I'll start with a brief overview of our report findings and then turn it over to our two guest speakers. The first is Ghana Goodwin-Dye, former president of UAW Local 909, and then Michael Davis from the Michigan AFL-CIO. And they'll help explain what these numbers mean to Michigan's working families and communities. And then we'll end with some closing remarks and open it up for questions. So we compiled and reviewed data from the US Department of Labor's Trade Adjustment Assistance Program, the acronym for which is TAA. The TAA program provides extended unemployment benefits to a subset of workers that the Department of Labor certifies as having lost their jobs to offshoring or displacement by imports. Department of Labor data tends to be more reliable job loss and creation data because it provides hard counts of actual jobs rather than economic modeling and estimates. But the data also undercounts the total number of job losses because the TAA program only covers certain types and because someone has to know that the program exists and has to proactively apply. Even with this in mind, the numbers for Michigan are concerning. The most troubling trend uncovered in our analysis is that trade-related job loss in our state has more than doubled in recent years. We see a 211% increase over the last 3 years compared to the 3 years prior. So whereas between 2014 and 2016, there were 7,428 TAA certified layoffs, between 2017 and 2019, there were 15,675. And just between 2018 and 2019, Michigan experienced a 308% increase in trade-related job loss. So overall, despite being only the 10th largest state by population, Michigan saw the second largest trade-related job loss total between 2017 and 2019, trailing only California, which has 4 times the number of people. These losses have been felt throughout the state. Cities and towns with more than 100 trade-related job losses in just the past 3 years include Adrian, Auburn Hills, Battle Creek, Brownstone Charter Township, Detroit, Flat Rock, Fraser, Galesburg, Grand Rapids, Highland Park, Holland, Jonesville, Kalamazoo, Lansing, Livonia, Madison Heights, Mendon, Pontiac, Portage, Romulus, Saginaw, Sterling Heights, Warren, and Ypsilanti. The Michigan numbers are particularly remarkable for coming during a period when government officials have claimed to have taken action to balance international trade and protect American jobs. In point of fact, according to US Census Bureau data, the US trade deficit in goods reached over $852 billion in 2019, and the trade deficit in goods in Michigan has also increased over the same period to $87 billion. If Michigan is going to stop hemorrhaging jobs overseas, we need our federal officials to stop adopting pro-offshoring policies, such as January's US-China trade deal. And we need to get serious about prioritizing the needs of working families in trade negotiations as well. This may sound like common sense, but we have a long way to go here. I'm going to turn it over now to our guest speakers who will talk about what Michigan's increase in trade-related job loss has meant for the workers themselves and for their families and communities. First, we'll hear from Ghana Goodwin-Dye, former president of UAW Local 909.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. I am a former president, UAW Local 909, elected 3 terms. And this all started for me in 2008 when GM went bankrupt. And we lost jobs then, and it has doubled and tripled, quadrupled now. My membership has had to move out of state to retain work. Our community in Warren they've lost business. Some of them have closed. It has been detrimental to some of us that were forced to retire because we had the seniority to retire, but we didn't have the age. I'm one of those. Many of our young people don't have that luxury to just retire. They have to work. We've had people that have had to move to Pontiac to go to work, in Flint to Kansas City. And that is very disruptive for your family life, as well as I've had members that have children with learning disabilities and physical disabilities that were forced to leave, and that's really not good for the children. When I was president, I was the one that signed our people up for TAA, but that was great for my people because we were in a bargaining unit, but the suppliers that supply the parts for us never had that opportunity. So the numbers, I believe, are skewed because they're not including everyone that's been affected. Because if they included all of the people affected, the businesses, the stores, the suppliers, the tax base, then it would be a lot larger. I just can't say enough of how transporting our jobs outside of the United States affects not just those people in that one particular industry. Our product at Warren Powertrain, which was a transmission, was shipped to Mexico, a place where they have no regulations on the environment. They make a much lower wage. And if we don't start putting together policies that force other countries to pay and take care of their people like the unions here do, then we're never going to get ahead. We're never going to see a middle class again. So it is imperative that we talk to our legislators and tell them what we need as working people to build and improve on what we've had in the past. My children are never right now going to see the benefits that I have, okay? Because right now, even if you get hired into a factory, if you're blessed enough to get hired into a factory, you don't get a pension anymore. You don't have the same insurance that I have when I hired in '85. So the government has to create policies that help the working class if we are going to survive as, you know, the superpower in America. Michael, I can turn it over to you.
All right. Good morning, and thank you, Ghana. My name is Michael Davis. I'm the organizing director with the Michigan AFL-CIO, and I graduated from J.W. Sexton High School, which is right up the road from the state capitol. And in line with what Ghana was speaking to, I can empathize with that in Lansing, having watched GM shutter multiple plants. Just 20 years ago, my high school, my graduating class was close to 300 students. Where now the school services 7th through 12th grades, and it's about 700 students. So, oftentimes we see these data sets in large numbers and tune out because maybe it's too abstract or, not tangible enough. But it's important to recognize that those data points exist outside of those equations and graphs. These are good jobs that Michiganders are losing. Those data sets represent families, friends, classmates, co-workers, parishioners. And you can see, as Ghana alluded to, just how much the tax base is eroded when those jobs leave, and the impact of losing those dollars right there from that local economy. You see how small businesses and mom and pop shops, local recreation sports teams, newspapers, all suffer, and communities are having a hard time recovering. And speaking with a worker out of our USW local 1299 plant downriver, they hired in back in 1995, about 3,800 members. His father actually hired in there, so it's generational of what some of these jobs mean to members and workers here in Michigan. Whereas this plant used to, iron ore pellets all the way on through the finishing process. Now they've been reduced to just being the finishing process. So they've lost nearly 1,000 union members. And these are jobs that aren't being replaced. And it's affecting not just those members, but the livelihood of 1,000 families. And these are good paying jobs with benefits. Speaking with our communication workers, lost 4 call centers in Michigan, 2 in Detroit, 1 in Kalamazoo, and 1 in Port Huron. Lost over 500 call center jobs in the last 5 years to offshoring. And, estimate maybe triple that in the Midwest. So these aren't only jobs that are lost. It's beyond just the wages, right? These are benefits that are lost. Healthcare is huge right now. And it's also a sense of security, right? So in working with our United Way labor liaisons, we see in looking at their 2019 ALICE report, showing that the increased cost of living, reduced work hours, depleted savings, which COVID-19 is laying bare now, has led to an uneven economic recovery here in Michigan. So I mentioned the ALICE report. That means asset limited, income constrained, employed individuals. So we have 1.66 million Michigan households with 43% of Michigan's population that can't afford basic household necessities. So we have a growing proportion of households across Michigan comprised of all races, genders, family compositions that can't afford actual costs of housing, childcare, food, healthcare, technology, and transportation. So the numbers of the jobs lost are staggering that we're looking at today. And when you look through the companies listed, you see communities, small and large, all across the state. So when we're seeing this suffering on a large scale for those employed through the ALICE report, today's report just lends to the renewed need to protect Michigan families and Michigan workers. So I thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Ghana and Michael, both for sharing for these sort of valuable insights. As we've seen, the numbers don't lie and the impact is real, and things are getting worse. Michigan is hemorrhaging jobs to offshoring week after week, with devastating effects on our working families, our communities, and our economy. Not only have lawmakers failed to rectify long-term trade imbalances, but they have in recent years actively promoted offshoring. So to take one example, the December 2017 tax law incentivized offshoring of our manufacturing jobs by lowering the tax rate for firms willing to move production out of the US. In another example, the recent US-China trade deal also makes it safer for big corporations to offshore jobs to China. This deal entirely fails to address the terrible labor and environmental standards there, but rather focuses its protections on intellectual property and tech transfer, which large corporations demand in order to feel safe moving production there. So to end trade-related job loss in Michigan, the federal government really needs to stop adopting these kinds of pro-offshoring measures. And then, as we've heard, needs to get serious about putting the interests of workers at the center of new trade negotiations. Existing jobs need to be protected and new markets for goods and services need to be built. Wages need to be lifted, as Ghana alluded to, both here and abroad, via trade policies that mandate strong, internationally recognized labor and environmental standards with swift and certain enforcement mechanisms. We should also allow for joint labor activities across borders, including collective bargaining, and we need to more seriously enforce bans on forced labor. And we should support the creation of new jobs and industries with trade policies that allow for public procurement, tariff investment, other industrial policies. So to conclude, the growing trade-related job loss in Michigan is not inevitable, but it's not going to change until our trade policies change. With that, I will go ahead and open it up to questions for any of our attendees. You're welcome to put them in the chat or in the Q&A if you have any, and I will turn it over to whoever wants to answer. No questions? Okay, well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Thanks again to Ghana and Michael, and Hope you both have a good day, and thank you all for attending.
There was one question. What sort of trade jobs have suffered for the biggest loss in the auto industry? And I can take that. We have shipped, I would say approximately 90%, 85 to 90% of the materials needed to build a car. Okay, they come from China, they come from Mexico. I can't remember the other country that they come to. When I was hired at General Motors in 1985, we built every part that went into our transmission. Now those parts are shipped to us from overseas. And in many cases, they have stopped production because the just in time isn't just in time. And we couldn't make our quota. So many of our products or parts have been, shipped out in the auto industry. We basically are just assembly plants now. We really don't make a lot of our parts to go into our vehicles. And I can attest all across the board with the big three. The only place that I know of that may make more of the parts would be Ford in Taylor. And they do make a car from start to finish, but I'm sure that they still have a huge content of foreign parts that go into those vehicles.
Thanks, Ghana. I see another question here. Which of the goods account for the largest portion of the 87 billion trade deficit that was cited for Michigan? We have Arthur on the call as well. He helped put the report together. He's my colleague at the Trade Justice Education Fund. Arthur, do you want to take that?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So as Denise said, my name is Arthur Stamoulis. I'm with Trade Justice Education Fund. So, Denise will circulate a press release and a link to the report to all the reporters present. And that report includes a list of all the trade-related job losses in Michigan in recent years. I can't give you like an exact dollar figure for the increase in Michigan's deficit, but I can say, just by skimming the list, clearly the auto parts and auto sector has been one of the hardest hit in Michigan. We've done similar reports like this throughout the U.S., and we're seeing trade-related job loss in everything from autos to forest products to semiconductors to call centers to computer programming. This is really affecting a wide range of industries. But in Michigan, the industry that's consistently been hit the hardest recently is the auto sector, no question.
Any other questions?
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, of course.
When you buy a vehicle, you can look at usually in the door panel to find out how much content is U.S. made as opposed to, outsourced. So I recommend people do that so that they know exactly what's going on, especially in the industries that, have been the bread and butter of Michigan.
Definitely. Also, another question, Ghana, you mentioned that many workers do not make parts anymore and have moved to assembling already made parts. Can you speak briefly to how that affects job security and wage growth?
Oh, yes. Well, for one, it eliminates jobs that were typically here in the United States. Job security is they're not sure, if they're going to outsource even more of their work, in which General Motors, I can only speak for General Motors because I am a GM employee and I've watched it over the 34 years that I've been there. The erosion of the jobs, they even wouldn't, they stopped bringing in people through attrition. And it's hard for us to replace people if I retire and they don't, replace someone to do the job that I was doing. They either add it to another person's job or they outsource it. I'm an electrician by trade, but I started out on the assembly line. So I know both sides. We also need to work on, educating our children, our kids that are coming up, that trades jobs are great jobs. And it doesn't, you have to get the education, but you don't have to have a 4-year degree, but it's a good paying job. Right now, we are hurting for skilled trades, all trades. GM is having a hard time getting people to come into the trades because they have twiddled their thumbs for so long that about putting apprentices on, that they're in a deficit now. And if they had their way, they would try and outsource that as well. But we even have outside trades that don't want to come in to General Motors, Ford, or Chrysler because their benefits are better than ours now. And we're union. They're making more money and they have better benefits. So, we have to build on our trades as well as our manufacturing.
Thanks, Ghana. Hi, Michael. We ended up taking a question right after you left. But I'm not seeing any others. I'll go ahead and let's see. Yeah, so in the chat, Arthur's posted our full release and report. I'll also send it out to everybody right after this conference call. Yeah, any other questions?
I think Mike could add to the question that you just asked me.
About how moving assembly, let's see, sorry. How job security and wage growth is affected by workers not making parts anymore.
So how job security and wage growth are affected, you mean like by those jobs being lost?
Yeah, so the question is, Ghana had mentioned earlier that many workers don't make parts anymore and have moved to assembling already made parts. So how that affects job security and wage growth.
Well, I'm assuming that the parts, you're meaning that the parts being produced in other places being imported, they're being, produced at a much cheaper rate. That's what we were talking about, finding trade policies to enforce labor standards and regulations, including pay for those workers in other countries that we do trade with. So yeah, when you have parts and things being made, overseas and they're coming in here, whereas you could be, be that's making those parts here, having those jobs and being able to control the entire process. That ensures, as Ghana was saying, that ensures, from part to parcel that that's the whole process here, keeping all those jobs here. So yeah, when you see, and then, with the bidding, you never know where those parts are going to be made, the quality and things like that. So there's a lot that goes into the importance, right, of keeping those jobs here to be able to, with our labor standards, with the union contracts that we can get to ensure those standards and regulations. It's adds another layer of safety on top of, not just wanting to keep the jobs here for supporting these communities.
And also, with this pandemic, it should have shown everyone how important it is that we keep making our products here. When we have to go to China to get masks that were typically made here in the United States. And GM, Ford, and Chrysler have shown that yes, those products can be made here safer, faster, quicker, and you don't have the cost of shipping them from another country. You know the quality because the unions enforce safety and quality in our products. And we have very, very proud employees and members that enjoy doing their work safely and putting out a quality product. People don't understand how important it is to us to put out a quality product, because that that impacts our reputation as employees if we put out a bad product. And we always want to do our best. You know, people try to say that, you know, union people are lazy, but I would love for them to come in and do the job, you know, for just one day, because the first day that I worked there, I had thoughts about not doing that anymore, okay? Because I was driving an hour to work. I had 3 children at home. And when I left, I was so tired and so sore walking out that door. It makes you think twice. But I stayed because it was a good paying job and it had benefits. And those are very, very important, especially to young people that are thinking about starting a family. And also with the jobs leaving and people having to be retrained, you're not making the same amount of money. And I'll be 58 years old. Who wants to hire somebody at 58 years old? If I want a job to make as much as I was making as an electrician, I would have to work 3 jobs, because, you know, our wages are under, you know, where we need to be to have a middle class life. So, you know, people need to start getting on their elected representatives. And if they don't want to do what they need to do to keep a middle class life, then they need to, you know, elect someone or support someone that does. Our representatives have to support what their constituency wants.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ghana. Anything else that we can cover for folks? Okay. Seeing no other questions, I think we'll wrap it up here for Reels this time. Thank you all again so much for joining us, and I will make sure that I send the full release and report right after this. Bye.